celebrity drama?
Drew Sidora, they're giving the vibes as if she's dating Portia's ex.
Oh my God.
Check. Music, movies, and viral moments.
Gabrielle Union came out and said that she was doing 50-50 with Dwayne Wade. I have that audio just in case you didn't remember, so let's listen to that.
Check. Exclusives. Come on, y'all. Y'all know I got that over here.
Whatever Loren says, Lord, yeah.
The show with all the hot takes, zero filter. Welcome to The Latest with Loren LaRosa. I'm Loren LaRosa, and I'm going to be bringing you guys where pop culture meets personalities. And over here, baby, we are doing all the things. Give me my tens, because we're going to have a good time.
Hey, y'all. It's Loren LaRosa, and this is another episode of The Latest with Loren LaRosa. This is your daily dig on all things pop culture, entertainment news, exclusives. You know, sometimes we do the exclusives here. And all of the conversations that shake the room. Now, in this episode of The Latest, getting right on into some things because we got some places to go and some things to talk about. We're going to start off with more talk show news. Talk show, Donald Trump. And y'all know this, we cover everything here at The Latest. I'm not like a heavy politic conversationer. I don't know. Is that a word? Is conversationer a word? Conversationist. Basically, I don't always talk about politics here, and you guys know that. It's more like pop culture trending topics, but more lately, Trump been coming on over to our side. So we've been talking about him here on The Latest. Last episode, we talked a bit about Donald Trump because, not even a bit, we took the whole episode and we talked about Donald Trump and his spat with Charlemagne. Now, today, I'm back again with another one because, listen, Trump is never scared, okay? Trump is always out here shooting his shot at all of the outrage and just stirring the pot. So Trump tweeted out Gayle King career, not tweeted. Let me get that right because remember, Trump, he got taken off of X. Then when he came back, he uses it, but like he really uses his platform Truth Social the most. So Trump posted on Truth Social, Gayle King's career is over. She should have stayed with her belief in Trump. She never had the courage to do so. No talent, no ratings, no strength. And he posted this because he was actually reposting and bringing light to a New York Post article. This New York Post article was an exclusive that the New York Post did, and that actually dropped earlier today, where they're reporting based on sources that Gayle King's career at CBS, doing CBS Mornings, is looking murky. And the reason why they're saying that this is happening, according to their source, is because they're reporting that the execs, the higher ups at the network want to move away from polarizing coverage. Basically, coverage that is too woke, according to what, Trump and the Trump followers-esque will deem as woke. So, for instance, one of the winners from RuPaul's Drag Race was on CBS Mornings with Gayle King. And the winner, his name is Bob the Drag Queen. Now, he was publicizing his first novel, Harriet Tubman Live in Concert, right? So he came on the show to do so. According to the New York Post, the CBS Mornings website described the book as a gender-bending story where the historic icon appears in modern-day America to tell her story through a hip-hop album. Now, this is a story that, was previously reported by the Post, but they're just using it to insert it into this to show an example of what the network execs are trying to get away from. So they point out this episode of the show because they have a quote in here from another source, the New York Post does, that says the audience that alleges that this source told the New York Post that the audience of CBS Mornings does not want woke. They do not like progressive and provocative bookings. Now we fast forward to them pointing to Bob the Drag Queen from RuPaul's Drag Race, who was on the show promoting a book about Harriet Tubman and Harriet Tubman finding herself in modern day time and just telling her story through hip hop. So they're talking about things that we don't want. We know that, they are very, even when they do have political conversations and the guests that they bring on, these political conversations and the guests do not run away from being very vocal about how they feel about President Trump, agreeing or not. And, anyone, I'm sure this source or whoever, anybody that's deeming CBS Mornings as a woke platform would say that a lot of the guests there are normally critical of President Trump, but you guys see the pattern that's going on here, right? Now with Stephen Colbert and The Late Show, when that happened, CBS pointed to money, finances. They talk numbers. With Gayle King here in this New York Post article, and again, all of this stuff from the New York Post is sourced, okay? So it's not directly coming from anyone. CBS declined to comment to the New York Post when the New York Post reached out on this article, although they did comment on Stephen Colbert's cancellation of his show. The New York Post points out in this article that Gayle King and her co-host lost between 20% and 30% of their audience versus last year, and the advertiser coveted 25 to 54-year-old demographic, according to Nielsen. And Nielsen, for those of you guys who don't know, it's just a site or it's a database that is supposed to be, you know, very accurate when collecting numbers as far as ratings and people and counts. So they're pointing to a study by Nielsen. They do not say when this study was last updated, but they do use it in this article, which again came out earlier today. It is August 5th, 2025. And then they go into mentioning that Gayle King recently signed an extension for between $13 million and $15 million of her contract that runs through next May, according to this well-placed source that they're pinning this whole report on. Now, they also point out, and like I said, y'all are seeing a pattern here, they also point out that that is the same month that CBS plans to pull the plug on the late night show with Stephen Colbert. And then once this report comes out, Donald Trump then goes over to Truth Social, amplifies it, and he says, Gayle King's career is over. She should have stayed with her belief in Trump. She never had the courage to do so. No talent, no ratings, no strengths. Now, Donald Trump has also come out about Kimmel. He tweeted when Colbert's show was announced to have been canceled. He has been very vocal against, I mean, look, we just talked about him, and having the conversation and the back and forth that he had with Charlamagne because of Charlamagne's appearance on Fox News with Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Loren Trump. You guys see the pattern here. I don't even have to say it. You see the pattern here. And I think at this point for me, just in watching all of this, I was telling a friend the other day, when all the Charlamagne stuff happened, and I've said this to Charlamagne too, even prior to the Trump situation, like, you know, because Breakfast Club, I don't know about any other platform. I know about Breakfast Club because I work there, but because Breakfast Club has a variety of opinions, like we have conversations with Laura Trump. We have conversations with people that might not agree with what I personally agree with. Like, I don't agree with a lot of the things, the majority of things, honestly, the whole lifestyle of Donald Trump for the most part. But I'm never opposed to having a conversation with people who are across the table. I also feel like, and I agree with the sentiment of the president is the president at the time, and you just do whatever you can best to make sure that the person in that office is, you know, being the best face and ambassador for what it is that the people need, no matter where the people sit on whatever side of the table. But it's getting scary. It's getting real tricky out here. And as a person in the media who, you know, y'all know me, like I like to lean toward truth. If I can't, figure out who the source is or, source it myself or find it to be fact myself, I don't like to touch it. Like, I'm very careful about certain things, but I think it's getting scary because it's like, if you have an opinion at all, it seems like that leans away from what our current administration believes should be the conversation or should be done. It gets tough out here for you. And I will say, with Gayle King, even having to tell somebody in the media space, like, oh, be careful about you having an honest opinion about something. Now, defamation and things of that nature are completely different because legally there are certain things that you just can and can't do when you are in this space because your audience is counting on you to be transparent, to be as neutral as you can be, or to be able to define when you're not doing certain things. Like when you're giving your opinion about something and you want it to be known as your opinion, your audience trusts that you will give your opinion in a way that they know it's an opinion versus something that they know or can take and go other places and repeat as fact, right? But just being able to say how you feel and not agreeing, being something that like makes you think, yo, will I have a job again? It is getting so scary. And it seems like it's such a pattern. It's like stories break about like ratings and shows not doing well, and then Donald Trump comes and he amplifies those stories and he has something to say about what you're doing, how you're doing it, listen, this is not new. I mean, Donald Trump has always operated in the space as more of like a celebrity in chief, so he's paying attention to what's happening. He's responding to what's happening. He, all the things. But now it's starting to result in things not being there anymore. Stephen Colbert show, not being there anymore. Joy Reid not being on MSNBC anymore. Those things get scary a bit, especially when you're sitting in my position. I'm like, yo, knock, 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 hello. I'm new here. Just begin building. Please don't tear down everything. I need somewhere to be at. You know what I mean? Like, and I was watching Kamala Harris. She did, speaking of Stephen Colbert, Kamala Harris did Stephen Colbert's show, The Late Show. And it's her first interview since, losing the presidency. And now she has this new book, 107 Days, which talks about the time that she had to run for president. And it was a very good interview. It was an interview about everything from, what she's been doing now to what her plans are moving forward. And, the news had come out that she did not plan to run for governor. And that, she had this book coming out. And then she goes on, Stephen Colbert, and she says this.
Our systems would be strong enough to defend our most fundamental principles. And I think right now that they're not as strong as they need to be. And I just don't want to, for now, I don't want to go back in the system. I want to travel the country. I want to listen to people. I want to talk with people. And I don't want it to be transactional where I'm asking for their vote.
Now, I don't agree with Kamala at all. I understand, I think, what she's trying to say. I think what she's trying to say is that, and I feel like it's a cover-up, to be honest with you. I'll get to that. I think what she's trying to say is that you don't have to be a president, a governor, a mayor, an elected official to be able to go out in your community, touch people, work for change, do things that affect people, do things that get changed, do things that give people what they need. And that's where she wants to live now. Like, she's not running away from the smoke, but she's approaching the smoke differently. She's not tripping off of not being an elected official and all of the things that come with it. And she talked about, because when Stephen Colbert opened the interview, the first thing he asked her was, have you gotten some sleep? How are you? Let's take a listen to her answer.
First of all, you look rested.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you. How you doing?
Once you left office, I'm just curious. I'm gonna get into the details, and I wanna talk about your coming book, 107 Days. But before we do that, I'm just curious. Once you left office, how long before you turned on the news again?
Months.
Yeah?
Months. I'm just not into self-mutilation. And I just...
So to hear her say that, right, she's had some time to reflect and I guess really put into, and really prioritize what's important for her at this point in her life. Whether that's being with family, getting to spend time with her husband, her nieces who she talks so much about, and just not being in the eye of all of the scrutiny. Like, I'm thinking about Gayle King, I'm thinking about Joy Reid, right? And I mean, Stephen Colbert, is unfortunate that his show is going off air, especially because it doesn't make any sense. And it feels like censoring. But I'm thinking about these Black women in this space because I can identify with them. Of course I can, because I'm a Black woman in a media space. I can identify with them a lot differently. And one of the first things I thought about was, man, like, you have to deal with people caring about what you wear, how you wear it, what your hair look like, what your makeup look like. Are you overdressed? Are you underdressed? The body type, what language you use, what language you don't use. Are you smiling? Who are you sitting next to? Who's this man that you're seated next to? Are you dating him? Are you, like, there's so many things that just women in general have to deal with, especially when you're in a spotlight. And then Black women on these platforms, and then Black women who aren't afraid to speak out when they feel a way about something, when they don't agree with something, who aren't afraid to stand next to presidential candidates. And now, on top of all the things that society and just people in general. And I feel like, talking about being woke, I don't want to sound woke either, because that's not my thing. I just like to say how I feel. And how I feel right now is like, yo, it's so much other things that you deal with on a day-to-day, trying to figure out life, career, and all the things. And don't get me wrong, I'm, of course, a lot younger than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has had an amazing career. She, is living her life. She's not complaining about things. That's not what that clip was. But I'm just thinking about all of the microaggressions and just the different silent battles that she's had to face and will honestly continue to have to face for the rest of her life because she's Kamala Harris, who was once vice president, and she's a Black woman vice president, and she ran for the presidency and she did not win it, and she would have been the first Black woman president, and just all these things, right, that she's going to have to answer and speak to and never be able to get around for the rest of her life, that she then has to couple with everything that, like, she was just, once you come out the womb and you walk out, baby, your first flick of the hair as a Black woman, you got to learn how to deal with issue in society and the people. So then you bring all this extra spotlight, and, you know, politics is such a heavy thing to be in. And I just can't imagine. So I understand where she's coming from, but I don't agree with her. I do feel like everybody has a place in change. But I do feel like there are certain people who get the privilege or the honor to have, you know, elected official status. And I don't think that those people should ever back away from trying. And it sounds to me like, listen, maybe I'm reading in between the lines here. Y'all let me know what y'all took from it. Get in the comments, get outside in the tweets, in the streets. Let me know. I'm Loren LaRosa everywhere, how you guys felt. It sounded to me like, as well rested as she said that she was, and, you know, as much as she's probably been able to, you know, prioritize and just think about what's important and what she don't want to deal with no more in her life. Man, I know that feeling. In her life, I think that there's a responsibility that you can't ever escape as a Black person. And I think that she sounds tired still. Like, she's tired. She sounds fed up, but she's making it look good. She's making it sound good. And we as Black women do that all the time. Man, we do that all the time. And we're so good at it because for so long and in, you know, different generations, like, you're literally taught that. Like, you're taught to turn a house into a home. You're taught to nurture. You're taught to do so much that pours into other people and other things. And when I just told y'all, like, man, I felt that. Like, she's probably just tired of the bullshit. Like, if I'm being honest with y'all, I get it. But I think we need her in the position. And I think that I don't understand where her purpose goes from here, if I'm being honest with you. I think that no matter how tired she might feel right now, no matter what happened in that office, no matter, you know, I'm sure she's tired of being asked about why she didn't tell the truth about President Biden and all the things. No matter how much that is getting on your nerves, your purpose is your purpose. And I just don't see her getting away from public service. I can't. And I honestly think we need people like Kamala Harris in public service, but we need people like Kamala Harris in a way where Kamala Harris is able to be the person that we watch in these interviews who, when Kamala Harris sat down with Oprah during her presidential campaign, I was like, if she could be like this everywhere she went, we good. Especially in the White House, like, we good. Because this is what we wanted from her in the White House when we voted for Biden. I voted for Biden because Kamala Harris was the VP on the ticket. And I thought that she'd be able to keep things in check. I don't feel like she was empowered the way that she should have been. And I mean, people will say, well, she's just vice president, but we all know we know what it was given. We know why we went so hard for Biden in that election. And I really don't think she was empowered the way that she should have. I felt like she was put in a shadow of everything Bidenomics when she went to run. And I feel like by her not being able to come out and just really speak how she wants to speak and do what she wants to do and tell the truth and have to be loyal to the Democratic Party, which, again, I'm not blaming her for, because as a Black woman, I understand that, sometimes even going against even when you want to go up against the fire and stick it out, continue to be in presidential offices and all these things and all the things of the nature, you don't have the resources you're supposed to have to do so, to be able to actually do it where it's effective and it's not just a freaking fight and mental tirade of like you breaking yourself down every single day. So I understand her and I get where she's coming from, but I don't agree that she can be as impactful. Now, she can have impact, don't get me wrong. And I'm not taking away from what she'll do because, look, I'm not out here public serving every single day. So people that are, I feel like that's not even my place to kind of like, critique or talk about as much. But in just, for sake of this conversation, I think we need her. Like, she talked about having people in certain places when it comes to this whole government thing, this whole politic thing. I think we need her inside of the system that she says she don't want to be a part of for a little minute. We need her there, for sure. And lastly, up in the latest, I was reading a article on my way over to film the show today, because Scott Mills from BET sat down with Billboard, and I'm pulling up the article right now. And when we talk about resources, people always have a conversation around BET, and what BET does, what they do well, what they don't do well, what we need, what we should see, all of the things. So Scott Mills has been doing some interviews. BET is celebrating 45 years of the network and being one of the leading Black media platforms. So Scott Mills, the CEO at BET, sat down with Billboard to talk about a pledge to continue to always be a leading media platform for Black people and for Black things and Black content. Now, during this interview, the journalist asked Scott Mills, can you confirm the chatter that two of the annual shows in BET Awards franchise, the Soul Train and Hip Hop Awards, so Soul Train Awards and then separately the BET Hip Hop Awards, are no longer going to be presented? So they're done. Are they done or not? And he says, it's less about them being no longer and more about our team having to reimagine them for this changing media landscape that we find ourselves in. I think that we're going to see more people taking franchises and saying, this might have started on linear television, but now I'm going to move it to another space. Do I move it to streaming or do I make it another platform? So for BET Linear, we have suspended the Soul Train and Hip Hop Awards show. BET is announcing that they have suspended the BET Hip Hop Awards and the BET Soul Train Awards. Y'all, this is insane. Because suspended is suspended, doesn't mean indefinite. But I do think that there is something to having to take it off of TV to have to figure out what to do with it versus it being such a vehicle and be built up enough where it stays on linear until you make that transition just because you want it to move forward strong to match where we are right now, which is what Scott Mills is saying. To me, this sounds like a roundabout answer to say it's not doing well on linear TV and we need to figure out something else for it because they are coveted shows, and something across digital is a lot easier to execute as far as keeping something on linear. You need certain numbers. You need advertising dollars. You need money. You still gonna need coin to produce an award show on digital. Don't get me wrong. But to have it across linear TV, especially where it's taking up a slot where advertisers might want to put something else or might be asking for something that is reaching more people or a larger, stronger demographic, that is a big this is a big statement that Scott Mills is making. He says, we have been a team that is actively thinking about where those award shows might best live as the media climate continues to evolve. So they aren't gone. Again, like I said, not indefinite. He says they aren't gone, but they will still have, BET will still have the NAACP Image Awards and the Stellar Awards. Now, I will say, I feel like what BET has done with the NAACP Image Awards over the years, even like last year, the show has gotten, production is amazing, the quality, and that goes into the dollars that are being put behind it. I love to see the celebrities showing up for the show as well. Like the NAACP Image Awards have had some pretty big shows these last couple years. Now, the second question the journalist followed up with was, they asked about the 2025 BET Awards viewership dropped almost 50% in the key demographic, which is 18 to 49 demo from last year's show. Is there questions about longevity of that long-standing show, the BET Awards? So he says, Scott Mills says viewership was down. However, the cable ecosystem is smaller today. And that's what I'm saying by when he's talking about taking the Soul Train Awards off of linear TV. That's why to me it's like, okay, this is saying something because it is very hard to get something on linear TV today. And it's not because people aren't watching. I mean, yes, less people are watching, sitting down and watching live TV. People are watching things on streaming. People are bulk watching things. You have the Netflixes, Amazon Primes. BET Plus was created. That's one of their vehicles because people are streaming. But there are still pockets of television where you do gather people and you get numbers. But it's not as easy anymore because it's smaller. There's less people watching. So you're fighting hard. You're fighting very, very hard for that viewership, especially to maintain it year to year to year to year. So he says, yeah, that's just the reality of it. A year ago today, the ecosystem is way smaller today. But he says, he gave a shout out to Connie Orlando, who is the EVP, the Executive Vice President of Specials, Music Programming, and Music Strategy. And her creative team who, have delivered an amazing or who delivered an amazing 25th anniversary show for BET. They did the 106 and Park anniversary during the show. I was in LA for the BET Awards, and it felt so good. Like, to hear that BET is struggling in the space of award shows at all, it's kind of disheartening, because being at the BET Awards this year, it felt like the old days. Like, big stars were there. People dressed up. It was classy. It was an event. It felt like a night of regal and of like Black excellence. So it made you feel like, okay, we're back. Like our award shows, like, we didn't fully, it's not like it shut the whole world down, but for real, it did. Like, everybody was talking about the BET Awards. Everybody was talking about how it looked, how it felt, all of the things. So he's saying, look, that show just went down and it went amazing. So I want to give her credit for that. But because this was one of the best BET Awards he says that he's ever seen. The ecosystem has changed, and that is probably one of the issues. But at the same time, let's not just lean on that. They did move the night of the show. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. Every year since I can remember, the BET Awards has been on Sunday night, which was, it was a very big deal that they moved it. But this was a huge year for the BET Awards. Like, there was Kevin Hart hosted it. You had Drewski and Kai Cenat doing live streaming from it. There was just a lot that went down during the BET Awards this year. But he is saying that in 2026 we're going to move it back to Sunday, which I think makes sense, because the BET Awards are also surrounded by the BET Experience, and people, it's kind of like almost like Essence Festival. Essence Festival happens around 4th of July. It's like the family reunion. Every year around what time your family reunion is happening. With the BET Awards, it's the same thing with the timing. But also, too, one of the only reasons why I wouldn't be mad about, because, again, we're talking about resources, right? We went from Gayle King, who is few of many Black faces on, morning daytime television, cable network TV. We're talking about Kamala Harris, who is one of one in her space, and just resources and a fight that it is. And then we get to BET in that conversation, which is crazy because, CBS and that whole big merger just happened. And, you talk about resources. Scott Mills is, I'm sure, behind the scenes having to have conversations about what does a Trump administration CBS Paramount merger look like, because of all the Skydance stuff. He said in this interview that he's not really worried about it, and he's not going to speak to that. But man, if I'm him, you have to look at what's happening. And if you are looking at what's happening, you're basically looking at the fact that, like, all the edgy, hard conversations for us by us, Trump ain't going to go for that for too long whatsoever. So what I was going to just say is like, when you're thinking about resources, if resources are thinning out in certain spaces, I say let's laser in and focus. So instead of maybe, and this is just me thinking as a viewer and as a content producer, it's like, okay, maybe we take the Soul Train Awards to digital and we make it something that is a smaller vehicle, but we lean in the Hip Hop Awards, but we lean in even heavier to the BET Awards and make that the thing, right? Like, that is the big one. That is the one that's on TV, and everything else is a smaller vehicle, and they all, like one hand shields the other. So they all lead into each other. Maybe they do it that way. There just needs to be a connectivity of sorts. I don't know. I always say a bunch of things I know and it'd be like, I don't know, right? But things are just different, y'all. The media landscape right now is just different. My grandmother always says to me, the world is going to come to an end soon, that Jesus is on his way back. When anytime anything happens, like, she go to the grocery store and they don't got her water. My grandmother buys Deer Park. They don't got her Deer Park water, baby. The ends of times is coming. I went to the grocery store. They ain't got my waters no more. You need to start saving your money. Y'all know how y'all grandmas talk, especially if your grandmother's a Black woman. Y'all know how they talk. My grandmother has been telling me to prepare for the end of times for the last 10 years. I am finally at the age, and I don't know if it's just because of everything that is happening or if I really do feel like this. Maybe it's a mixture of the two. I'm finally at the age where when she calls me and say, baby, it's the end of times, I say, you know what? You're right. What you told me to do again? Instead of just being like, my mom, what are you talking about? It's like, the things that I'm watching happening right now, it's like something out of a sitcom or a movie. I never thought that I would see, honestly, like, from our president and a lot of things that are happening with the administration. People lose jobs every day, unfortunately. But man, my friends in entertainment right now, BET did major layoffs. I have friends in every creative industry, from music to fashion that like are just losing jobs left and right. My old job, like where I used to work, TMZ, they did huge firings as well, and I never thought that was happening. Shows were getting canceled left and right when I was in that newsroom. And one thing Harvey was always good about was ensuring us that we would still be working because of the vehicle and how it goes. And I mean, it's crazy to see it. It's crazy to see it. It's crazy to think about it. And again, that's why I'm like, yo, I understand Kamala being like, yo, I don't want no parts of this. Take me on vacation. Read my book. I'll show up in the communities with my Chuck Taylors on and my laugh and my hee hee ha ha giggle. But baby, life is too short and it's coming to an end anyway. Let's live our best lives. This has been The Latest with Loren LaRosa. I am Loren LaRosa. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode. Make sure you subscribe. Click the subscribe button. Click the bell, actually, because y'all need to know every single time an episode is uploaded. Y'all ask me for the visuals. We didn't got the visuals. Shout out to Sky House here in New Jersey. Make sure you guys are tuned in. I tell you guys at the end of every episode that at the end of the day, there's always so much to talk about, and you guys could be anywhere with anybody as they talk about it. But my lowriders, all 1 million plus of y'all, I think we at 2 million at this point. Y'all are always right here with me to do it. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you in my next episode.